Hello, Nyy'zai of planet Earth. My name is Zai Nyy'zai, and in today's episode we're going to be going over life partner hierarchies for the Nyy'zai. Now, you could kind of think of the life partner hierarchy as kind of an advanced continuation of the social alchemy groupings that we already went over. In our last episode, you saw inspiration, you saw same source, things like that. But there's also whether or not the grouping is giving you inspiration, augmentation, or suppression. Inspiration would be relationships where you're having your powers basically being inspired to expand beyond their native shores, but within the channels that are native to them. Augmentation relationships would be like with other mojos that have the powers that you already have. So some form of Ni and or Zai. These are going to augment you. That's been covered in social alchemy, but it's being specially focused on here in life partners because of two really important things. The fact that in order to have a life partner, you need to have a complete story. A life partner is a very intimate thing, so this means you need to have all 8 powers represented consciously between two people, and it needs to be a harmoniously complete story. So all 8 powers should be represented, and they should be in the correct levels to link up to create one unified story. On the other hand, this life partner is going to be the most intimate partner for you. So things like gender is going to be very important. And the fact that you're going to need to be not competing with each other for the same roles that you naturally provide. This person's going to be around you a lot and very close. And at the most intimate levels, all humans need to be able to break away from just being around themselves. And they need to be completed. And that's something that can only come from having the powers that you don't have represented in the right ratios. Let's talk about the Nyy'zai in particular now. The top life partners are going to be the ones that give you the most inspiration. And there are 3 that form a pyramid. At the apex, we have the Nyy'zai. The Nyy'zai, their top 2 powers, are the most inspirational to yours, and in addition to that, they also have Jai and V. So these 4 powers line up perfectly with yours. They're the 4 powers that you don't have, and they're in the perfect ratios, which is the Nez channel first, then Zez channel, then Zhez channel, and then Vez channel. Also very inspiring to a Nyy'zai would be a Nyy'zai. Now there's kind of an issue because the Nyy'zai have a repetition of your Zai and Ji. However, they are still very inspiring because of the fact that they are Ni Alpha, which is inspiring to your source Ni. Then there's also the Zi-Ni. The Zi-Ni have the same top 2 powers as the Nyy'zai. So those 2 powers are very inspirational to the Nyy'zai. The problem is that the ratios are not right. The Zi-Ni also, like the Nyy'zai, have the 4 powers that you don't. It's the ratios that are the issue. What's inspirational for the Nyy'zai is, like I said, Nez, Zez, Zhez, Vez. Well, the Zi-Ni have Zez, Nez, Vez, Zhez. So that's why the Nyy'zai is at the apex, with the Nyy'zai and Zi-Ni at the base of the pyramid. Then there's the augmentation triangle. The augmentation mojos are mojos that are similar to you, and so they're going to basically be amping up your momentum powers, but without actually leaving your native shores in the way that inspiration works. This is going to be other Nyy'zai at the apex, then Nyy'zai and Zai-Ni at the base. In the context of an intimate partner, however, there's going to be an issue with augmentation because the powers are too similar. You don't really have the full range. You don't have all 8 powers going on. So this is okay in a working relationship, but as far as intimate relationships, it's going to be a problem because of the overlapping. Anytime that you have redundancy or overlapping in powers and priority, then it's going to be an issue in close, intimate relationships. This is why you see in the inspiration triangle, then it's adaptives with directives, objectives with subjectives, things like that. Because when you do it that way, then you want to have as little redundancy and as little overlapping as possible. With augmentation, it's going to be getting your powers stronger than what they are natively, but not expanding to the other 4 powers. So it's important to note that this is a very strong social alchemy grouping. The augmentations show up in the recognition, same source pairing, and the inverse pairing. So it's very strong energy. And that's important to note because a lot of times people feel that having a life partner or intimacy or sexual chemistry or love should be something that feels very powerful. And that can happen without actually being around your ideal inspirational. So it's very important that you understand this concept because as a Nyy'zai, you're going to be having very strong upgrading and energy and confidence by hanging around other Nyy'zai, and Nyy'zai. So this can become intimate, but it's kind of like becoming intimate with another person on the job, and you guys are doing that job all the time. You're basically hanging out doing what you're doing all the time and being intimate with your coworkers, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, and there may be a time when that's even appropriate in your life. But the point is, it's not ideal and it doesn't actually complete you. The third energetic group is called the suppression trio. This has to do with mojos that are basically further down, like shades of me. So as a Nyy'zai, then this is going to refer to the Vaiji at the apex, the Vai-Z, and also the Ji-Vai. These are mojos that are very, very different from you and basically have to do with your modulation powers. There are other models of thought like typology and stuff like that that would say that the suppression is actually ideal. This is complete BS. It could not be further from the truth. The reasoning you'd hear them give is something like, oh, they complete you or something. That's nonsense. No, they don't complete you, because to complete your story, you would actually need the 4 powers that you don't have, not just a repetition of your 4 powers in opposite order. And C, this grouping, it actually kind of just cancels out your heroic powers through improperly modulating each other. That's not something you want, and that's not something you need. You already come with the ability to modulate yourself. You don't need another person modulating for you. What you want is inspiration, which is a person that actually inspires you to reach out, to actually do the modulating to yourself and master your abilities so you can actually meet them on shores that are less native to you. So you want a person that actually inspires you to expand yourself in a way that's native to you, not a person that just cancels out your powers. However, suppression relationships are not uncommon per se. They do happen, and they are actually a significant grouping, and that's why they are the third major grouping for life partners. And this is because when things are happening to you that are putting you in a weakened state, for example, maybe like life, work, reality is just kicking your butt. And so you're forced to, like a bunch of Vai or Ji is being forced onto you. And having a person that can handle your modulation powers for you can feel really good. And it can kind of feel like this person is your savior. And a sense of gratitude as well as security on your part may come from this, that a feeling that you owe something to this mojo because they are basically doing this for you, or that you need them because, you know, you're seeing that like they're my other half, they're doing the stuff that I can't do, but that's wrong. Another thing is with the suppression trio, there's a lot of similarities in the way that it's kind of structure that looks like inspiration. For example, a Nyy'zai is ideally inspired by a Nyy'zai, so basically a hunter mojo. And, you know, the Vai-Ji, they're also hunter mojos. So it seems like there is a balancing out of priority. And as a hunter, you know, they're going to have a lot of extremely similar maneuvers that, or maybe even be doing similar motifs in similar bubbles. Especially in the case with like a Vai-Z or something like that, because then they're a hunter mojo who's basically hunting the Zez channel. So they can be good at a lot of stuff in a Z sort of sense, you know, directness, thirst for challenge, and, you know, these might be things that you want in a partner in your life. And if you're taking stock of that without actually understanding mojo or knowing how to read how you're energetically being pinged, then you might not know until years later that that wasn't something right for you. There are other relationship groupings as well, such as compensation and partitioning. These two would pretty much cover all other mojos that we haven't mentioned yet. And all of these mojos for the Nyy'zai you could potentially have as an intimate life partner, and you're going to be doing some variation of keeping them from certain parts of your life because they're not going to be able to do it due to the fact that they are not ideal inspirationals. Or you'll have to spend more energy than you should have to spend, or do special workarounds in order to get things flowing. Because of that, those groupings are not very significantly strong energetically. So the groupings that tend to come up the most are those three triangles: inspiration, augmentation, and suppression. This also relates to the Nyy'zai in mojo reading. The fact that those three trios have the most energetic effect for different reasons on a Nyy'zai, this is going to be something that's very important for you, because you need to kind of make sure you understand how you relate to a romantic or intimate partner, because you're being heavily affected by someone, and that can often lead to intimacy, even though that may not be what should happen. But as far as mojo reading goes, early on when you start mojo reading, you're going to want to feed yourself. As your psyche gets fed, then it's going to want to do what's feeding it more, especially if it's a good, healthy feeding. So when you're doing mojo reading, if you find someone that's of interest to your psyche, then it'll be easier for you to mojo read because your psyche will be getting more geared up toward it. The signals will also pop out more because they're more energetically relevant to you, because they inspire you, or they augment you, or because they suppress you. So now you know, now go forth and know yourself, grow yourself, and save the world.